Yesterday evening against his good friend David Bauer. He was up on the ropes. We thought he was going to lose, and he somehow managed to eke that one out. And now here he is.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to watch him in the semifinals as well?
We watched a little bit of the semifinals. When we joined the match, he had a Jace in play, an Elspeth in play, and 6 tokens, and was about to make 3 more.
Okay.
So he kind of was just cleaning things up there.
A
At the end.
dominating board position.
Yes,
in
it
that
was.
one.
It was game 3, so he did lose one. I think he lost game 1, but he won both games after sideboarding, and that has led him here to the finals. Jonathon Cheng on the other side of the table defeated green-white aggro in the semifinals. Now he lost in game 1 to a very fast force from his opponent's green-white aggro deck. He just came out of the gate with Experiment Ones and Fleecemane Lions and Loxodon Smiters and just rolled him.
All right, let me ask you, because Adrian and I were excited about this card yesterday. Did Scion of Vitu-Ghazi make an appearance?
It traded for a Supreme Verdict, yep.
Oh. Well, that's not as exciting.
It was Scion Supreme Verdict was the first time it appeared. The second time it appeared, it brought a couple birds and then Detention Sphere on the Scion, and leaving just 2 birds that were fighting with 2 Blood Barons of Viscopa, so you can kind of guess how that went.
He never got to populate a 5/5 worm.
No 5/5 worms. He did populate a Centaur token after making one with the Vitu-Ghazi Guild Mage, so there was a more population.
All right.
Going
Well,
on, but
maybe that card is not quite ready to shine in Standard.
well, we're underway here in the finals. Esper Control Mirror, both players leading off with a Temple of Deceit, and a Hallowed Fountain is Jonathon's second land. He is on the play here.
Esper Control Mirror, this is your 3rd time doing this. This is only my first time. You've been with Adrian the other 2 times. The Esper Control Mirror we've had on camera this weekend was Standard.
I love it.
You love it.
I
You
do.
set this up this way. Somehow, some way, this is your responsibility. Hold you responsible. Both players coming out with Temple of Deceits early on, scrying, fixing their draws. Nothing's really going to happen in the first, 4 turns?
Yeah,
I mean, turn 4 is really the first time anything can happen with something like a Jace.
Sure, I mean, we could see a Divination from Jonathon on turn 3, but he's already passed his 3rd turn, and he decided not to do that. He's going to play a Temple of Deceit.
Another one,
Take a look at the top. He's thinking about it. Looks like he's got an Elspeth. He's got a Hero's Downfall, a Detention Sphere, Supreme Verdict, and a couple of other cards. Looks like possibly another Hallowed Fountain. Jonathon and Harry are 7 and 8 seeds. Both of these guys battling from the bottom rungs of the top 8 to the top.
Okay, lots of scrying.
Yeah,
sculpting hands.
Absolutely, that's what it's all about here in these early turns of these control decks. It's just sculpt your hand, deal with threats on the table, and hopefully make something happen later on. Jace, Architect of Thought, is the first spell of the game here on Harry Corvese's 4th turn. Jonathon says yes.
Go for a
you
-2.
Yeah, no creatures out there to threaten Jace, so getting some cards off it immediately is usually the best course of action. We see Azorius Charm, Dissolve, and Island. There you see Jace, Architect of Thought.
Now, Jonathon did not play his own Jace on turn 4. He had to play a Temple of Deceit tapped. We may see a Jace right back from him.
Dissolve is split away from the other 2, and that is the card that Harry decides to take.
So
he wants the counterspell.
Jonathon right there showed a Hero's Downfall, pointed at Jace, and Harry quickly pointed out you don't have double black.
Yeah.
But now he does, so that's a problem actually. If he was planning on playing his own Jace, he can't if he wants to use the Hero's Downfall.
That's right. His second black source came into play tapped, so he was unable to make use of that 3 mana available at the end of turn. So now Harry knows he has a Hero's Downfall, so if he decides he wants to, he's going to go ahead and Detention Sphere the Jace, which is fine, except Harry knows one of the cards in his hand now. Watery Grave comes into play on tap
Since
here.
he had to use some sorcery speed, downfall at sorcery speed anyway, he's using the Detention Sphere on his turn so he can have an instant answer to a Planeswalker perhaps later, or a creature.
Yeah, it seems to be the course of action he decided to go with. So Harry just plays a land and passes. Jonathon matches him. Hallowed Fountain go.
So the thing there is, he played the Watery Grave. Jonathon played the Watery Grave last turn, and I believe he played it untapped,
Yep.
right, to hold up some other kind of spell. But he also had a Godless Shrine in his hand, so that means on turn 4 he could have played one of those two lands untapped by paying 2 life and had the double black open for Hero's Downfall. Control decks are so often used to being, reactive, right? So you look at your hand like there's no reason to hold Hero's Downfall up, you might think, because your opponent doesn't have anything to kill. But you have to leave yourself open to the possibility that you may cast it. You have to think, if they cast a Jace, I want to be able to cast Hero's Downfall. So Jonathon, a very, very subtle mistake maybe there by not playing a turn 4 black mana source untapped.
Exactly. So in the meantime, both players just playing land go, and it tends to be Scryland go in this format. Both players, I believe, playing the full 8-pack, 4 of each: Temple of Deceit, Temple of Silence. Just want to confirm that. Yes, Temple of Deceit, Temple of Silence. You saw early in this format Christian Calcano piloting Esper with just 3 of each, but these Scrylands are good enough in these
here we
control
go.
decks.
First revelation, and Jonathon says, okay, wow, he's got no counterspells. How many counterspells is Jonathon running in his deck?
I think he's just got the 3 dissolve.
3 dissolves, and this
deck.
is something we've seen is a lot of these Esper control decks moving away from syncopates and the early counterspell defense.
Yeah, Harry does play 1 main deck syncopate in addition to his 3 dissolves, but we thought Harry had the edge on deck just slightly because of his main deck Thoughtseizes and a couple of other tools. At this point, he is really separating himself from Jonathon with he got extra cards off of Jace, and now has resolved the Sphinx's Revelation. Jonathon has only resolved that Detention Sphere.
Yeah.
And that was just to take out a half a Jace, right? Because Harry was able to get cards out of it. He got a dissolve out of it, but not in the best shape. But it's still early. No threats on the table for either player, and an Azorius Charm is cast by Jonathon Cheng here after Harry passes the turn, discarding after that revelation.
There are 9, 8, 9, 10 lands on each side, and you're saying it's still early.
It's early because there are no threats on the table.
Okay.
Look at their life totals.
But I feel like Harry is absolutely in control of this game, so that's...
It feels that way. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think Harry right now is in much better shape. He was able to draw... He's up so many cards, and in this case it's card quality rather than card quantity because both players have 7 cards in their hand. Harry did have to discard, but he's got the cards that he wanted out of those.
Yeah, and he was able to discard fairly useless cards in this matchup.
Exactly.
Creature removal just not really at a premium. Just hang on to a couple of Supreme Verdicts in case you need to reset, Elspeth making a bunch of tokens. But single card removal answers, ultimate price here on Jonathon's deck.
So as we see, Jonathon resolves a Divination, and Harry is now resolving his 2nd Sphinx's Revelation of the game. He keeps 3 mana up, and Jonathon knows he has a dissolve, so even if Jonathon wanted to fight, or wanted to counter it, he knows it would just have been countered back. So he has to really just let it resolve, or decide to trade a counterspell for a counterspell in that case. But yeah, Harry is running away with it as far as card quality in this particular situation. There you see a Thoughtseize, one of those main deck Thoughtseizes that Harry has, absent from Jonathon's deck, and we're going to see what Jonathon's got. He's got double Elspeth, Supreme Verdict, Hero's Downfall, Detention Sphere, and Azorius Charm.
It's interesting that we see Jonathon here now holding 2 Elspeths.
Right. You'd think you'd want to play one of them.
Yeah. I think the position he's in here, being so behind, he should just try to start jamming threats and hope that Harry does not have enough of the correct answer.
Right.
We know about the 1 dissolve.
Yeah, at this point, Harry doesn't need to tap out. In fact, he's going to have a tough time tapping out with all those lands.
Right.
So if you're worried about playing around dissolve, he's got the dissolve. He's got it, and he's going to keep it until you make him cast it. So there you see, it looks like, was it the Azorius Charm that he took?
Yeah, I think so. Just take
take Jonathon's
Okay,
way to
well,
Well, now you can see why. Yeah, Aetherling
Harry's going for it.
is
He's
the
going
play
for
from
the
Harry.
kill.
Yeah,
Thoughtseize on Azorius Charm, which is a fog on an Aetherling. But it's a fog, so it's
yeah.
another turn, another draw step. Harry denying him that.
Right, Harry saw that the way was clear as far as counter spells. Now he knows he still has a hero's downfall that he's going to have to fight through. But at this point, Harry up a ton of cards and has the Aetherling on the table. And as I mentioned, I said it was early, about
Now
30,
it's
30
late.
seconds ago. Now it's late. Aetherling on the table, and Jonathon needs to be able to fight it. Hero's downfall, as I mentioned, one of the ways he can fight it.
Yeah, that's a fog too. But actually, Azorius Charm was a bigger threat because it could actually cycle into a counter spell, which could
Sure.
stop Aetherling for good. So
Yeah, so I think taking the Azorius Charm makes a lot of sense there. Harry does have the Dissolve for the hero's downfall if he wants to use it on that. We don't know what else Harry has in hand. I know he's at least got a Syncopate. I saw it. He's got a Detention Sphere, but he may even have a second copy of Dissolve. So here comes Elspeth.
Yeah,
Harry says,
Harry
sure,
doesn't even care.
have your Elspeth. Elspeth's either going to die to this Aetherling or you are.
I mean, Harry could be holding Hero's Downfalls, Detention Spheres.
Supreme Verdict. He could just blink out his Aetherling when he needs to and Verdict away those tokens. If they are going to at all threaten him. Harry is in such a commanding position here. Jonathon going to pass the turn after casting Elspeth and making a couple soldiers.
Does not feel that Elspeth matters at this point. Irrelevant. Yeah. Irrelevant. And now
Island from Harry. This is, what,
Aetherling.
12th land? 11th land?
Too many lands. You know what I call 12 lands? A match.
All right, so Harry very likely to go on the offensive here with that Aetherling momentarily. His hand is Syncopate, Dissolve, Detention Sphere, Plains. He's got a couple of Dissolves, in fact, so he can go ahead and counter that Hero's Downfall if he wants to get that Aetherling in for sure.
It's going to be 3 swings of the Aetherling to finish this game. And if he lets that Hero's Downfall, if he has to blink instead of counter, it's going to be 4 turns.
Yeah, Elspeth not in danger of going ultimate in that amount of time because he goes to, if swing number 1 and then Elspeth goes to 6, swing number 2, Elspeth goes to 7. Actually, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. It actually is in danger of going ultimate, so he is going to attack the Elspeth with an unblockable Aetherling. See, it's a good thing I did that out loud. Hero's Downfall, as we suspected.
Well, this is actually an interesting game situation because Harry could just blink his Aetherling and be up a card, but he's thinking about the counterspell because if he does that and doesn't kill Elspeth's going to make 3 more tokens.
Yeah, so Elspeth gets hit by the Aetherling after the Hero's Downfall is countered by Syncopate. Now, that was a great use of Syncopate.
Yeah.
Jonathon had tapped 6 of his lands already, and Hero's Downfall cost 3 more, leaving him with only 2 up. So Harry able to make use of a Syncopate here this late in the game when his opponent has 11 lands in play, and Syncopate still works if they can't pay the amount. So he Syncopates for 3 there. Jonathon just has 2. Elspeth goes down, leaving Jonathon with just a trio of soldiers.
And that's a singleton.
Yeah, singleton Syncopate
in Harry's deck. Kind of a keep you honest card.
Right. It's there for the early game. Now we're going to see Elspeth number 2 come down. Now this one not going to be able to go ultimate, so it's only going to be able to make soldiers. And if Harry doesn't deem those soldiers as threatening, he can pretty much ignore Elspeth.
I feel like now he's going to kill Elspeth, blink his Aetherling, and then go for a Supreme Verdict just to reset these soldiers, because 6 is a little scarier.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot that he attacked the Elspeth. It still could go ultimate. It can actually make the ultimate. I keep thinking that last Aetherling attack had an effect on Jonathon's life total when it didn't. It took out the Elspeth. So he is going to have to deal with Elspeth here. And now an ultimate price off the top
we have
from
not
Jonathon.
Seen that, so that was drawn after the Thoughtseize. So Harry this time is
Yeah.
going to blink.
I mean,
Wants to save his last. Well, he's already used the dissolve. No, he hasn't dissolved.
Right,
Sorry, he
he's
used
got-
the syncopate. So he wants
right.
to save the dissolve, and chooses to use a D-sphere instead.
That's one way of dealing with Elspeth. Now, he has double dissolve in hand. In fact,
Wow.
Jonathan knows about one of them.
That's okay.
And now
Does he not have a supreme verdict anymore? Has he discarded that?
it's possible he discarded it, but a detention sphere will do just as much work clearing all the tokens from Jonathan's side of the board and leaving Harry with the only threat on the table.
I say that just because Detention Sphere has more value
Right.
as a versatile removal spell for Planeswalkers, as we've seen him use it for. And the soldiers, right, if you have a Supreme Verdict in hand, the soldiers are really the only thing you use that for.
Now, one thing, I think Harry may have another detention sphere in hand. I do agree he may have discarded some number of Supreme Verdicts because he was up so many cards. Here you see Jace, Architect of Thought, hitting the table, goes -2, splits 2 lands, and an Azorius Charm. Harry says, which one do you want? Jonathan takes the Azorius Charm. That is another way to fog that Aetherling for a turn. So Jonathan's still in this, has not yet been hit by that Aetherling because of being able to get 2 Elspeths on the table. And I'm kind of wondering if Harry shouldn't have dissolved at least one of them. Jonathan knows about one dissolve. You can counter it and deal with it, and that way it lets you possibly get in with an Aetherling one more time. Or in this case, he'd just be up in a detention sphere.
I think in Harry's mind, he's holding those dissolves for Revelations and Aetherling. Like, those are the biggest threats here. He can deal with the Planeswalkers. Yes, Jonathan is going to get some small incremental advantage from the abilities, but with an Aetherling on the board, usually they're only going to activate once. So he's fine with that very small advantage. He doesn't want to give up the big advantage, big card advantage of Sphinx's Revelation, or the possibility of suddenly getting blown out by an Aetherling.
Harry's going to go ahead and attack Jace with the Aetherling.
Yeah.
And Azorius Charm is the play from Jonathan. Aetherling blinks out, so still that Aetherling has yet to do any damage to Jonathan.
That's a fine blink because the Jace, if he -2s again, it's going to go away anyway. And again, Harry is somewhat okay with that kind of incremental advantage he's giving away. He has to be careful, though. I mean, incremental advantage can add up, and all of a sudden he may find himself behind in cards even after resolving Revelations.
I don't know. I think I would have played this game slightly differently. I think I would have been going for the throat with that Aetherling more, and the fact that he had detention spheres, even with Elspeth ultimate, if you just sphere away those soldiers, they're not. That ultimate doesn't matter. Just like with Domrirad, I think you and I were talking about, like, his ultimate doesn't matter when there are no creatures on board. So I think he could have ignored the Elspeth and just been going for Jonathan. And yeah, Jonathan may have still been able to fog the Aetherling a couple of times, but he may have been able to cut a couple of turns off of his opponent's life. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I certainly could be. Harry here is in the finals. He is an accomplished player on the Open Series, and he's got an Elspeth of his own now, alongside 3 tokens and an Aetherling coming back into play at the end of turn here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I would have just gone for Jonathan with the Aetherling. Now, the problem is, as it turns out, maybe we were wrong because Jonathan seems to have drawn so many removal spells after that. Since we saw the Thoughtseize, he only had Hero's Downfall. Since then, he's played an Ultimate Price and now found an Azorius Charm, so multiple, quote-unquote, fogs for Aetherling.
Either way, Harry did have a couple of detention spheres to deal with Elspeth if it was that big of a problem, and a dissolve for the second copy if he wanted to. So Jace, Architect of Thought, goes down to 0 counters and finds a second copy of Jace, a Divination, and a Dissolve on the top for Jonathan Cheng. So Jonathan gets to choose between Dissolve and Jace and Divination.
Now that's an interesting split. I mean, the Dissolve, an absolute answer for anything Harry plays, or if you get in a counter war with his Dissolves,
and you can
or
see
giving up, more small advantage, +1 card for Divination. Jace is potentially +1 or more cards.
So he takes the Jace with the divination. He is holding one dissolve. He puts another to the bottom.
This is a very strange game because it seems like Harry's in a commanding position, but Jonathon has just been chipping away.
Yeah, he's been catching up, it
with the
feels
card,
like.
Yeah, with the card advantage.
There is an Elspeth and Aetherling on the other side of the board. Don't get it wrong.
But here you go. Like
Detention
Detention Sphere can answer the Elspeth. Harry may finally pull the trigger on one of his dissolves that he's been holding.
So, Detention Sphere on Elspeth. Harry says, all right. So, Detention Sphere does take out that Elspeth, and
this is a real. I would love if Harry after this match. We often see on StarCityGames.com open competitors write tournament reports. The industry standard, and then I believe like building a legacy are the names given to them, the column names. I would love to see Harry write an industry standard. Maybe not even on the whole tournament, but on this game. Like his thought process in this game would be very interesting. He could watch the replay and then kind of go over what he was thinking, why he's been so patient with these dissolves. And that might be very insightful to people who want to play Esper Control.
So a Supreme Verdict is going to take out the 3 soldiers for Jonathon Cheng, and follow that up with a divination. And Jonathon Cheng pretty much tapped out. He's got 1 mana untapped, so Harry free to resolve whatever he'd like. He's going to go ahead and swing in with the Aetherling for the full 8 and knock Jonathon to 10 before passing the turn back to Jonathon.
On Twitter, and you can join the conversation with us on Twitter, hashtag SCGINVI. Zach Brasgol says, Esper Control Mirror in the finals of the SCG Standard Open. This should be about as fun as watching paint dry.
I love watching paint dry. It's awesome.
That's a lot of people say that about Control Mirrors. I am actually fascinated by the decisions that have been made in this game. I think Harry has had a game plan the whole time. He's been so patient with these dissolves, much to our confusion and consternation. Like there's been multiple times where like, oh, he's gonna dissolve something now, and he hasn't. So I think it's very important to watch matches like this.
Absolutely.
And try to think about what these players are thinking about and get in their heads. If you want to play control, if you want to play aggro, it's important to try to figure out your control opponents.
So Jace, Architect of Thought, number 2 from Jonathon Cheng, finds him 3 lands on top, so he grabs 2 of them, and he passes back to Harry, who is attacking yet again with an Aetherling. And this time I didn't see an indication of whether it was attacking Jace or Jonathon.
It's kind of half-cocked towards Jace. We're not sure if that's an indication of where it's attacking. We'll find out soon enough.
But with all those cards in hand, Jonathon does have a likely way to at least fog the Aetherling for a turn.
Yeah, it sounds like far away.
Sounds like he's attacking Jonathon. Got that confirmation from our director, Jesse.
Okay, and yeah, there we go. There's the far away, which looks like 2 mana for far. Bounce your guy. No thanks.
And there he goes. Fog the Aetherling, blink it away for the turn. End of my turn, Aetherling comes back.
Maybe a question of, is he responding at end of turn? Jonathon may have said something, at end of turn, perhaps thinking about firing off a Sphinx's Revelation. Yeah, there it is.
That's what he goes for. So, does this take a dissolve? Now, Harry knows that Jonathon knows that 1 dissolve exists in his hand. I don't believe he's dissolved anything this game.
I would do. You gotta finally pull this trigger. No.
Wow. No. What? Yeah. Is it just for Aetherling?
They know. They've seen each other's deck lists. Harry should remember that Jonathon only has 1 copy of Aetherling.
That
in his
may
deck.
be what the situation is. Harry's looked at the list and went, the only way he wins is with Aetherling because I can deal with everybody else. That's fine. I'm just going to fight over Aetherling. I mean, with my dissolves. So, Jace, Architect of Thought, finds another Jace, Architect of Thought for Jonathon Cheng. And yeah,
And look at his hand. Like, his hand is full here, and yet he is on the ropes to an Aetherling.
This is actually kind of, yeah, this is really fascinating. I think that was what Harry determined, at least in game 1 here, with one Aetherling as the only real threat.
That this game is all about Aetherling
Yeah.
advantage.
I mean, and you can say that about control quite a bit, but usually there are more things being countered and interacted with throughout the game, but Harry has identified Aetherling as his sole target. And so Jace, Architect of Thought from Jonathon Cheng will resolve for, I believe, the 3rd time this game, and is going to find a Detention Sphere, a Temple of Deceit, and an island. Jonathon gets the Temple and the Detention Sphere.
And there you go. Detention Sphere is another very important card here. I mean, not against the Aetherling so much, but if we're going to start fighting over Planeswalkers again at a certain point.
Harry cycles an Azorius Charm at the end of turn. Figures he'd rather have a card than a way to fog a potentially resolved Aetherling on the other side. Now, of course, his game plan is all about apparently keeping Aetherling from resolving, so it seems like a safe play to make. Now his Aetherling is going to swing in, and I think he's, again, going for Jonathon's life total. Jonathon's going to cast
another
Sphinx's Revelation.
This one for 3.
Yeah, this is after being hit with an Aetherling down to 3.
And notably leaving 3 mana open for his own Dissolve. So he gets those cards, he gets that life, but that's not enough life to survive the next Aetherling hit, so he has to now find a sequence of removal spells to keep forcing the Aetherling to blink.
I believe he's got a Doomblade in there. Let me see his list. Okay, it's not a Doomblade because it's not main deck. Oh no, there it is. There it is. It's a one of main deck.
It's a one of, and it looks like it's crossed out on
Right,
this deck list, but
because
there's actually a weird printing error or copy
Yeah.
machine error. Yeah, so Doomblade. And this control mirror match is so different now from the last season when they had Nephalia Drownyard. That was what the control mirror was all about, Nephalia Drownyard, getting multiples of those and
All
showing
right.
your opponent out.
Here we go.
Yeah,
Aetherling on
we've
the
been
stack
waiting
from
for
Jonathon.
this.
And Dissolve, says Harry, and Dissolve back, says Jonathon. And now Harry pauses here.
I don't even...
Here he's thinking, I've got you at 4.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
If I hold this Dissolve for whatever you're going to use to try to fog my Aetherling, then I just win next time Aetherling attacks.
Yep.
So Harry at 14, it's going to take 2 swings from Aetherling. He's going to go ahead and Dissolve. He's going to play it safe. So 2 Dissolves now from Harry.
He's waited this long and seemingly waited for this moment. And wow,
There's
Jonathon!
a second Dissolve from Jonathon. We know he had 1 Dissolve on the bottom. And yeah, now Harry will lose the counter war. After holding those Dissolves that entire game, he still loses the counter war after letting Jonathon draw so many cards.
So he only scryed once there. Did he put it on the bottom? I think he put it on the bottom. Should get to scry again, right? Because his second Dissolve counters Dissolve. So his first Dissolve resolves on Harry's first Dissolve. So he should get to scry another time.
Jace is going to tick up here. Jonathon now possibly afraid of decking.
Harry has used up his Dissolve.
And he top decks a Dissolve. So he actually still has a counterspell in hand.
That's just not even fair.
So Aetherling appears to be attacking Jonathon.
Are we... Did he block?
Yeah, I don't know if he... I don't know that... Did he not make it unblockable? I mean, there's... It looks like it's unblockable. There's a tapped Hallowed Fountain there. Dissolve your Doomblade, and yeah, Harry Corvese does take this first game in the Esper Control Mirror here in the finals of the StarCityGames.com Standard Open. live in Indianapolis at the Open Series featuring the Invitational. And wow, yeah, I think that was the plan game 1. I wonder what his plan is for games 2 and 3.
We will get to that
we
shortly. We'll get to both of these players' sideboards.
Yeah.
We're going to come back to the booth and do some trivia for you. Now, I was not here for the semifinals, so hopefully I'm not repeating a question.
I don't know.
No, I was actually kind of listening in, so I believe I have a different trivia question for everyone.
Hopefully.
It'd be embarrassing if I had the same one. But whatever. We'll just go with it and hope for the best.
Sounds
now,
good.
I'm going to ask a trivia question to you guys in the audience. If you get the correct answer, you can win 12 months
That's right.
of free premium at StarCityGames.com. You're going to want to be on Twitter and tweet your answer to hashtag SCGPremium. And we are taking not the first answer, not
That's
the
right.
second answer. Maybe we are.
Right, at random.
But we are at random selecting one winner from all of the correct answers. So
Yes.
accuracy favored over speed. Make sure your answer is correct. Hashtag SCG Premium. Now my question for the audience is the StarCityGames.com Invitational. We are playing the top 8 this morning at 11 a.m.
That's
so
right.
after we finish the finals of the Standard Open, we'll take a short break, come back at 11 for the top 8 of the Invitational. In that top 8, there are some big names. You know, we've talked about all weekend long, some great storylines.
Absolutely.
I want to ask a question about their decks.
Okay.
Because a full half, one half of the top 8 is playing the same archetype.
Yeah.
Legacy, a very diverse format, but these ringers, these Magic pros, half of them here in the top 8 have decided that this is the deck.
Yes.
So what is the deck that represents one half of the StarCityGames.com Invitational top 8? Ladies and gentlemen, tweet your answer at hashtag SCG Premium, and you could win 12 months of said premium.
It's a good question.
Okay.
I thought you were going to ask how many players are in the top 8.
That would be a little too easy.
Maybe we'll save that one.
It's 9,
for
right?
another time. I'll tell you later,
Okay.
because we might want to use it. All right, so let's look at these guys' sideboards. We did a little evaluation and comparison between these two lists earlier on. As you can see,
There
there's
you are.
sideboards there. Sideboards are a little more varied, but essentially the same, a similar concoction of counter spells, discard spells, and additional threats, as well as a few additional answers to the board in the case of.
Wow, yeah.
Look at Harry with the 3 pithing needles. Now, I don't know if he brings in those needles here because he's got. Yeah, is he going to?
They've got all the same cards.
Right, they've got the same cards. He's going to needle his own guys. Now, there is one reason to bring it in, and it's the one of Planeswalker in Jonathon's sideboard, Jace Memory Adept. That's definitely coming in. Also, of course, the Gainsays, the Negates, the Thought Seizes, those are all coming in. I do also like the Blood Barons. Adrian and I were talking about this. I think looking at each other's deck lists, for answers to Blood Baron, the answers are Supreme Verdict and one far away in Jonathan's list. So, really, those are the only answers to. I'm sorry. There's also a Merciless Eviction in in Harry's list.
Oh, nice.
So
In the main?
yeah, he's got a Merciless Eviction, and Jonathan's got a Far Away. So they've each got 4 Supreme Verdicts. Jonathan has Far Away. Harry has Merciless Eviction. Those are the answers to Blood Baron. So I actually like Blood Baron in this matchup because there aren't any Devour Fleshes, right? There's not a ton of answers to it in this particular matchup. So I like those coming in. On the other side, Harry likely brings in that Aetherling, those Blood Barons, the Gainsay, the Negate, and the Thoughtseize. The Pithing Needle is the question here because Jace Memory Adept is trouble. And you can bring in a Pithing Needle that's going to be a potentially dead card because it's only going to be there for that one of. Or you can try to say, you know what, I know he's got that Jace Memory Adept. We saw him hold counter spells for 90% of the last game.
Needle is also a good hedge in a mirror match, even though you have all the same cards. If you fall behind at some point, especially if somehow an Aetherling slips through the cracks.
That's the big one. That's the other big one. Sorry, that's not in the board, but yeah, Aetherling is a pretty good a pretty good reason to bring in Needle if you fall behind in Aetherling. Absolutely.
I feel like after sideboard, Jonathon here is favored.
Yeah.
He's down a game, but he's able to, like, you look at the counter spells they can bring in. Harry can bring in 3 additional counter spells, a gainsay and 2 negates. Jonathon can bring in 4 gainsays and 1 negate. And then Harry goes up to 4,
Harry goes up to 3, as does Jonathon.
And Jonathon can go up to 3 Sot Seizes. Jonathon has the huge Control Mirror, Haymaker, and Jace Memory Adept. So I feel like Jonathon's got a slight advantage here. Everything is so slight in these Control Mirrors.
Yeah.
They're very similar decks, obviously. And we saw in that game, Harry seemed to get the advantage early on by landing an Aetherling. But after resolving an Aetherling, it took him another 10 turns to put the game away.
Maybe
because
more.
Jonathon was able to keep chipping away with card advantage, keep fogging the Aetherling with his removal spells, putting out threats in Planeswalkers that Harry felt he needed to answer with an attack step. Wow.
Yeah, you're right. Like, looking at the sideboards, Jonathon actually he goes up to more counter spells. He equals out on Thought Seizes. And as far as threats go, he's got the 1 main deck Aetherling, the Jace Memory Adept that he brings in, and likely the 3 Blood Barons. That's 5 big threats where Harry has 1 main deck Aetherling and then can bring in an additional and 2 Blood Barons, so that's just 4. So it's just 1 additional, but that's a small edge that Harry could have there.
Yeah, we have on Twitter Max Khan. He's been with us a lot of this weekend at Max Plays MTG, pointing out they also have Elspeth -3 to deal with Blood Barons.
Absolutely, that's a good point. Thank you for pointing that out.
So thank you for joining us on Twitter, Max, and thank you for pointing out stuff. It's very important that we cover all the angles. So the angles we miss, you got for us. And another interesting tweet I got is from Kyle Stewart. He says, I remember the old Psychotog mirror strategy, never counter card draw, only Tog, Psychotog, and Upheaval.
Yeah.
Seems fine for Esper too. And I do remember that mirror match, and yes, it was all about, when someone finally goes for an Upheaval, there's going to be like 4 or 5 counter spells on the stack. It's a little different now because back in that day you had actual counter spell, blue, counter target spell, and there were several other good counter spells, cheap counter spells. Circular Logic was one that you could cast for 3, or if you have a Psychotog for just 1 blue. So the dynamic of the counter strategy has changed quite a bit because the counter spells are weaker, a little bit more expensive now, so you don't really, it's hard. That game we saw them have a lot of lands, but sometimes you don't get into a situation where you play the waiting game and play multiple counter spells at once. We did see that happen.
Yes.
We saw a stack with 4 dissolves at one point.
Yeah, it's a scary thing. It's a dangerous game because you saw Harry's plan was apparently, I'm going to stockpile counter spells for the Aetherling.
But he doesn't have enough in his deck.
And he doesn't have enough in his deck, and he allows, by stockpiling counter spells, he allowed Jonathon to draw so many cards off of the Jace, off of the double Revelation, 3 Jace Architect of Thoughts, 2 Divinations, all resolved from Jonathon. He's able to stockpile counter spells as well and resolve his Aetherling. Obviously, it worked out well for Harry as far as the result of the game, but he lost that counter war after stockpiling counter spells.
He lost the counter war for Jonathon's Aetherling and got a little bit lucky drawing that third dissolve to finish the game off with his Aetherling attack. Who knows if Jonathon's removal spell resolves, but draws the blink from the Aetherling.
Yeah. So we're underway here in Game 2 of the finals of the StarCityGames.com Open Series live from Indianapolis, featuring the Invitational this weekend, but this is just the Standard Open. This is the finals, Esper Control versus Esper Control, and it about looks like a control mirror. It's just land go so far for the first 3 turns of the game.
Yeah. And this time, Jonathon's got the double black up on turn 3, but Harry is not going to play a Jace. He has another Temple of Deceit.
Yeah, Harry last game mistakenly attempted to Hero's Downfall a turn 4 Jace Architect of Thought without the aid of double black, so was not able to use that Hero's Downfall.
That was Jonathon on turn 4 playing a land tapped when he could have played one untapped and had access to double black. More scrying going on. Scry, scry, scry. A divination from Jonathon Cheng. Draws 2. You know, maybe in a mirror match like this, we should start counting card advantage.
Card advantage, just keeping track.
Like Jonathon is +1 right now.
Yeah.
But that brings up the question that people have been asking: how much card advantage is scry worth?
That's
you know,
true.
It's like a third of a card is something I've heard. So if you scryed 1 3 times, then you're up +1 cards, maybe.
I don't know. Well, Azorius Charm cycled at the end of Jonathan's turn. I'm sorry, the end of Harry's turn by Jonathon.
That's card parity. You're drawing a card, but using a card to do so.
Exactly. Land go, says Harry.
Lands. Who's going to blink first? What are they going to blink with? This is where Sphinx's Revelation is so key, because it's a card. Even if you blink, you're doing so as an instant at the end of your opponent's turn.
And a Hallowed Fountain into play untapped from Harry Corvese, and
Always
he passes.
a dead giveaway of the upcoming Sphinx's Revelation.
Or at least it seems to be pointing in that direction, but Harry could just be trying to see what Jonathon will do if he plays an untapped land. Does Jonathon, you know, like maybe.
So you play it untapped, don't cast Sphinx's Revelation, and your opponent's like, why'd you do that? I just felt like paying 2 life. You know, it's not going to matter, right?
Jonathan's done it. Look, Jonathon at 18. They've both played an untapped land. So, a Thoughtseize from Jonathon Cheng, 1 of 3 in either player's
for
deck.
this.
And yeah, Harry says your Thoughtseize is going to get a dissolve. How about that?
Protecting something in his hand, protecting his information.
A Gainsay, says Jonathon
see, there
Cheng.
you go. Jonathon able to bring in 4 copies of Gainsay as opposed to only 1 for Harry. Now Harry could bring in 2 negates. Jonathon 1 negate. Post-board counter advantage goes to Jonathon Cheng. Harry forced to use another.
This is a counter war over Thoughtseize. So dissolve your Gainsay, says Harry. Or dissolve your Thoughtseize, either one.
And here's the power of Thoughtseize drawing a counter war.
Yeah, so dissolve from Jonathon Cheng will win the counter war for him, and Thoughtseize shows Supreme Verdict, Detention Sphere, and lands. Interesting.
Now you were right. There's no
There's no
Sphinx's
revelation unless he put it in the graveyard. Unless that that was.
Oh, that
just
he
just
put it straight in the graveyard. No, he's choosing the detention sphere.
Okay, never mind. Just making sure that was the case. Yeah. So that was just. That was an interesting counter war.
You notice what happened there. Jonathon cast Thoughtseize, perhaps because Harry played that Hallowed Fountain untapped.
It's
right?
very possible, yeah. And that might be exactly why Harry played it untapped, because Jonathon says, all right, then you probably got Sphinx's Revelation. I'm going to take it.
Because either you get to take it, or Harry casts it in response, and then you counter war over that. Or if it resolves, you can take the best card after at post-revelation.
Yeah. That was really
Did Harry Corvese really play a Hallowed Fountain untapped to draw out that Thoughtseize? I really think that he did now.
Well, in the meantime, he's drawn off the top a Jace Architect of Thought, which has resolved now after Jonathon cast a bunch of counter spells, and has found him a copy of Elspeth off the top.
I just got a chill up my spine from that. We absolutely are going to want to find out about that later.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Maybe he can tweet about that. Hashtag SCGINDY.
He did tweet that he was going to the finals and to tune in for some for lessons in Esper Control Mirrors, I believe was what he tweeted.
If you want to follow Harry Corvese, he's at H Corvese, Corveseh, and then his last name. You can follow him on Twitter. He has been tweeting updates from this tournament, so you can follow on the hashtag, or you can follow him and see maybe what he has to say about that play.
So as you can see, an Aetherling has resolved for Jonathon. Harry out of counterspells, not able to fight over that Aetherling, and a Pithing Needle also resolves here for Jonathon. And Jace Architect of Thought is the card that is named. Yeah. So Harry unable to dig further and unable to counter that Aetherling. Does he have another way of dealing with it?
Yeah. Unfortunately, so Jonathon only left up 1 blue mana. If Harry had some way to interact with the Aetherling as an instant, like a Hero's Downfall. He could have done that on Jonathan's turn, and then when the Aetherling came back, he could have had something like a Supreme Verdict.
Absolutely.
But Jonathan, feeling the coast is clear after getting that Thoughtseize to resolve.
Yeah, Jonathan still only one Aetherling in the 75. He does not have any more in the sideboard. He has 3 Blood Barons, but no Aetherling. So here Harry is going to go wild with the Sphinx's Revelation, I think. It looks like it's a rev for 3 at the moment. 4. Yeah, okay, so he's going to keep up 3.
So what is he hoping to draw into that costs 3, perhaps? Or is he just leaving up 3 in case
Representing
he draws
a dissolve. He's got a Hero's Downfall to fog the Aetherling for a turn, and maybe that's what he was looking for, some kind of removal spell. Well, apparently not, because he's going to go ahead and...
Did he draw a Needle? Now Harry...
He's going to Thoughtseize here. He drew 2 Thoughtseizes.
Harry has 3 copies of Pithing Needle in his sideboard. We don't know if he's brought them in.
Thoughtseize shows Gainsay, Detention Sphere, Elspeth, and Sphinx's Revelation.
That's a tough one.
Well, the fact that Harry's got an additional Thoughtseize here makes the choice a little easier. Not necessarily easier, but at least he knows he can take the 2 best cards rather than having to decide which one is the best. He can take the Counterspell, and he can take the Revelation and decide to deal with the Elspeth later.
He needs to find an answer to the Aetherling on the board.
And that's what he does. He goes ahead and casts that second Thoughtseize and takes Gainsay and the Revelation. So leaves Jonathan with a Detention Sphere and an Elspeth.
But that's going to drop him down.
He did just gain 4 off of the Revelation, so it was kind of broke even.
Now Jonathan's going to be free to play his Elspeth.
Yeah, Jonathan's able to play Elspeth here and able to connect with that Aetherling, but he can't. He can connect with Aetherling for 6, which is fine because it's a 3-turn clock at the moment anyway. He can connect with Aetherling for 6 and play Elspeth and be tapped out.
Wow, we saw
draw for the turn is what is that third card? Because I see Elspeth, Detention Sphere. That last one looks like it could just be a Plains.
Yeah, it does look like a Plains. We saw Aetherling take game 1 for Harry. Now Jonathan threatening to take game 2 with the same card.
He decides he just wants to swing for 4, and that's what he does. Harry goes to 14 off of a hit from an Aetherling. Elspeth comes down and brings 3 soldiers, and that card was not a Plains. It was a Temple of Deceit, played by Jonathan there to scry, and now Harry untaps his roughly 12 lands. Well, it's more like 10 lands right now, but now it's 11, which is roughly a dozen. And an Elspeth, rough. It is. Elspeth of his own in Harry's hand, but still way behind on board. That Jace Architect of Thought does nothing right now. That Pithing Needle is holding it down. He's got a Sphinx's Revelation, a Supreme Verdict, an Elspeth, I believe another land.
Now we know he's got a Hero's Downfall.
He's got a Dissolve and a Hero's Downfall. So maybe there's no other land. It was Downfall and Dissolve were the other 2 cards.
So he has to find a sequence here where Jonathan taps down too low and he's able to fire off a Downfall on Jonathan's turn to draw the blue mana for the Aetherling Blink, and hopefully at that point tap Jonathan out and then have the Sphinx's Revelation. So this looks like an upkeep.
Yeah. Upkeep Sphinx's Revelation from Harry Corvese. After that double Thoughtseize turn, he feels pretty safe, especially knowing there were 2 cards left in Jonathan's hand, and he played a Temple of Deceit. He knows there's no counterspell. He can go ahead and successfully resolve a Revelation for the max value here. He is tapped out, but goes up to 22, and he doesn't have to discard at the end of Jonathan's turn.
Exactly.
That's the big one. He didn't do it during his own turn because he would have had to discard at the end. So now Jonathan facing down a free and clear board, completely empty on the other side, but his opponent has tons and tons of cards in hand.
And just fixes Revelation for 8.
Yeah, he can knock Harry to 11 here by attacking for the full value with the Aetherling and the soldiers. He's just going to attack for 7. Going to knock Harry to 15. Elspeth's going to bring along 3 more soldiers. And now Jonathan's going to cast a Revelation, leaving 3 up. Obviously not to fight a counter war now, because Harry can't counter anything, but to hopefully draw into a dissolve and counter one of the many cards that Harry has drawn off of his Revelation.
Yeah, kind of getting a look at Harry's hand here. Just too many cards to figure out from this angle.
Yeah, there's so many cards we're only seeing a sliver of each.
A sliver?
Yeah, there are no slivers in Harry's hand. Unless he's holding a Mutavault, which is not in the deck either, so. Jonathan passes the turn. Harry draws. Finds it looks like a Blood Baron of Vizkopa off the top.
Well, that's not really going to get it done. Not on a board with Elspeth's Son's Champion, as has been pointed out.
Pretty sure there's a second Blood Baron and an Aetherling of his own in Harry's hand.
Can he figure out a way, so barring not dealing with that Aetherling, can he possibly figure out a way to just turn the tides quickly with his own Aetherling and win out from under Jonathan?
It's a good question. Now, he does have Thoughtseize, so he can check to see if the way is clear for his own Aetherling.
Yeah, that would be good if you go Thoughtseize, play your Aetherling, and then just start using, I think he's got multiple Heroes Downfalls. Use them as fogs. He may need to deal with that Elspeth first. So a downfall on Elspeth, maybe a Detention Sphere on Elspeth.
Yeah, so he's going to lead with Thoughtseize, and Thoughtseize shows him Jace, Architect of Thought, Detention Sphere, and a
Glare.
bright white card.
Not Glare of Heresy.
No, it looks like a Temple of Deceit. And so he takes Jace, Architect of Thought, even though that is a dead card because of the Pithing Needle.
Yeah.
Harry may have plans to deal with the Pithing Needle, maybe. I don't know for sure, but that would be the reason I could think of that he would take the Jace.
That may have just been a straight up misplay there, forgetting about the Needle. Because the shortcut may just be, I can't use my Jace, but if you get a Jace,
yeah, maybe you're just
you
not
can
thinking
use
about
it. Yeah. Because I feel like the D-Sphere, leaving that in hand, could be a problem down the line.
Right.
Maybe not, because you're just going to play all of the same things your opponent's going to play. So if you play an Elspeth, you're like, go ahead and D-Sphere. That is something that is possible now with the new Legend rule. I saw it happen at States. A friend of mine, I'm not going to name his name to not embarrass him on the air, but he had his own Jace, Architect of Thought. He ticked it up to 8, so threatening ultimate. And then he cast Detention Sphere and said, take your Jace, Architect of Thought. And then as he reaches across the table to put it under D-Sphere, his shoulders slump and he sees his own. He's like,
oh, no.
And then we talked about it later and pointed out, well, maybe there was an opportunity because D-Sphere, Detention Sphere says may. Maybe there's an opportunity to say, I choose no.
There's a Hero's Downfall on the Elspeth. That resolves, of course, Jonathon Cheng out of counterspells. Harry cleared the way with the Thoughtseize. Well, he checked and saw that the way was clear. And now he can also resolve Aetherling if he'd like, although that will put him low on lands. Untapped.
Do it. You've seen his hand. Oh, no, wait, he's got Detention Sphere. So, well, no, that's fine. He can cast a Detention Sphere, and then you can blink your Aetherling. Actually, kind of a funny play would be if he plays Aetherling, Jonathan plays a Detention Sphere, not blinking his own Aetherling.
Yeah.
Harry's just like, no, nothing in response.
Right. There you see a Blood Baron of Vizkopa is the play instead of an Aetherling. That's still another great card to resolve here, knowing that Jonathan doesn't have any counterspells. And the other thing is, Harry is he knows that basically Jonathon would have to draw a counterspell off the top next turn in order to counter
his
a
Aetherling
subsequent
next turn.
Aetherling if he were to go for that next turn. So Harry's going to discard now. He discards, looks like a Syncopate and maybe a land. Or
This is a good play because A, it makes all of those soldiers stay back. Like if Jonathon attacks with 6 soldiers, he loses 1 to do 2 damage because of the lifelink. So it's not really a very profitable attack. But more importantly, yeah, it makes Jonathon use up some mana. First he has to make Aetherling unblockable, and then if he wants to actually race against this lifelink, he has to start pumping some mana into the power to be able to deal damage enough over the lifelink. So now Jonathon is using up mana on his turn. Maybe Harry can engineer a situation where he can get rid of that Aetherling, or it just constrains Jonathon's mana so he can't do other things.
so that Aetherling attacked, unblockable for 7, knocking Harry to 6. Now
Yeah,
there's a
but
scry going on. Jonathon keeps it and passes the turn.
He passes. I think what he should have done is blinked his Aetherling, have it as a blocker that can blink as a blocker to deny the lifelink. Because you don't want to just let Harry gain 4 life here.
Yeah, he may not have seen it or may, just not have realized it. Although, okay, so if Harry attacks here, he goes up to 10, and Jonathon can kill him on the swing back.
Sure, with the soldiers, but Harry may have a follow-up play like a detention sphere on soldiers.
Sure could. So Harry's going to go ahead and swing with the Blood Baron, go up to 10.
Yeah, I think Jonathon should have blinked his Aetherling there, unless he's drawn something that he wants to cast as an instant.
Yeah, I kind of like your play as well. Blinking the Aetherling makes it so that he can block Blood Baron and then blink out before damage, which would leave the Blood Baron around, but would also not gain Harry any life. Supreme Verdict is the play from Harry after attacking, and that cleans up the soldiers. Jonathon, of course, blinks out the Aetherling.
Now soldiers of his own coming from Elspeth's Son's champion. Oh no, now he goes, oh!
Look at that. Did you see that exclamation from Harry?
That's the same reaction I had.
Yeah, it was oh no, you drew a counterspell.
That was the one draw step after the Thoughtseize.
And that's exactly what I said. It's like he knows he puts himself in a position to resolve the Aetherling, barring that one unknown card, and it was a dissolve. And Harry, claps his hands together. Can't resolve the Aetherling through the dissolve, and Jonathon now in great shape.
Yeah.
With an Aetherling, able to counter his opponent's Aetherling. Harry with 2 lands up. Now he may have an Azorius Charm. Can't quite see.
That was a situation where if Harry resolved his own Aetherling and he had enough kind of pseudo fog effects with removal spells for Jonathon's Aetherling, he might have been able to steal this one. Dissolve off the top for Jonathon, and now Blood Baron off the top. So back-to-back fantastic draws for Jonathon Cheng. Both of these players, we're deep here into game number 2.
Yeah, Harry falls to 5 after getting hit with that Aetherling.
Now maybe in trouble.
I think I may have pumped 1 more into that Aetherling if I were Jonathon, if I were planning on following up with a Blood Baron, because, well, it's being able to put Harry to 4. If Harry's able to fog the Aetherling, it doesn't matter because the Blood Baron is still there. You know what I mean? Like if he were to pump 1 more into the Aetherling, Harry would have been at 4 here, and that way
a lot of good reasons
fogging
to
the
pump.
Aetherling wouldn't have been enough. So Elspeth
-3
does come down and deal with the Blood Baron. That is one of the few answers to Blood Baron, and so it would have been a moot point, but I think making the correct play still something to keep in mind. So Aetherling now swinging in.
Yep. And a hero's downfall from Harry forces the blink.
So Harry does fog Aetherling for a turn. So if he didn't have that Elspeth and Jonathon had pumped, the Blood Baron would have been there, and Harry would have had to find a way to deal with that or lose the game.
Yeah,
So,
no, I agree.
of course, this is a lot of ifs, but that's what the game comes down to sometimes.
He didn't do anything with his mana. No, getting your opponent to nice even life totals, not necessarily even odd, but an even life total compared to the threats that you have is always Always a good idea.
Exactly.
Just
So-
puts him dead to more things.
So Elspeth is going to tick up to 2 counters after dealing with a Blood Baron on the
did
previous turn.
I just see a needle in Harry's hand. Has he found his answer here?
He does have a needle and a dissolve.
Ooh,
So
with a backup.
there's a Jace Memory Adept in Jonathan's hand.
Oh, jeez.
And but Harry does have a dissolve. So if Jonathan draws a counter spell to fight a counter war again.
The haymakers here that Jonathan has drawn.
Yeah, he's going to go ahead and Detention Sphere the needle, which is going to make Harry's Jace
Yeah,
live.
but
Oh no! So he dissolves the Detention Sphere. Okay,
you
so
have
that's
to.
right. I know,
Otherwise,
I know.
you're dead.
Right. You dissolve the Detention Sphere so that the Aetherling is stuck under that needle, and now Jonathan can resolve Jace Memory Adept. Now Harry's going to have to find an answer to that if he doesn't want to get decked out in a few turns.
Well, I mean, he's got a pseudo answer in Elspeth's Son's Champion that can make soldier tokens, and so Elspeth, okay, can go up to 3, make 3 tokens, so you have 6 tokens, and then the turn after that, you can -3 and get rid of the Aetherling, which would still be under the needle, presumably. Or you can just attack with your 6 soldiers. Yeah, no,
Yeah, I
attacking
mean-
with the 6. So you have to make soldiers next turn. I mean, you have to. You can't
Yeah, there's nothing else
-3.
to do, right? Yeah,
I
there
think
are
this
some
is-
angles of attack for Harry to get out of this. Is that what you're?
Yeah, no, I mean, you have to. You have to counter. I think.
Yeah,
he-
absolutely.
He's done that. Yeah, he's
He
done
did.
that.
I think he made the correct
Yeah.
play. I wasn't saying, "Oh no, he shouldn't have done that." I was saying, "Oh no, he had to counter that and use his counter spell." So now
Sure,
Jonathan's
no,
going to be able
no
to
question.
resolve that Jace that could be important. Now, right now, threat number 1 is Aetherling. He has to protect himself from Aetherling, or he's dead. So he absolutely had to counter that, if knowing that he doesn't have an answer for another answer for the Aetherling. So
Jonathan should attack here first, just to see if Harry will block, I think. I mean, maybe you're afraid of Azorius Charm. I think you attack. I think you want to attack. No.
yeah, this is because you've got a 4/5. You can't make it unblockable.
Right, and,
It's
and
just
here's where that 1 point of damage earlier, where Jonathan could have pumped an Aetherling, just 1 extra, 1 innocent mana, here would have forced a soldier to block. I don't know if you want to. I mean, either way, Harry is going to be committed to probably attacking this Memory Adept, and you can just get a soldier on the backswing.
Yeah, you're right. Jonathan could have right there put him in a position to have to block with a soldier, which may have helped the Memory Adept survive a bit longer because there would have been 1 less soldier. So Memory Adept resolves here, and Harry
He counts.
is counting, and it
Maybe
may
we
not
can
take
get the
much.
count.
Jonathan.
Okay, so we're getting a report that the count was 25 cards.
Wow,
so
it didn't look like 25. Here go the top 10.
So 2 more activations, and Harry Corvese will be dead to the milling. And even really 1 more activation puts him in a tough spot of having to win quickly,
Absolutely.
which may not be possible with the cards that he has.
So he's going to leave the Aetherling back here. He can't blink it. Can't do anything
Well,
about it at this point. It's just a blank 4/5.
we've seen that he's drawn 1 needle, sideboard card Harry has. Saying maybe he can draw another one, but he doesn't.
So Harry's hand appears to be a couple of lands and a Jace Architect of Thought.
Committed to attacking that Jace.
So he's going to attack the Jace.
Block
And Aetherling
1.
gets in front of it. Jace goes down to 2. Elspeth's going to tick up to 3 and bring along 3 more soldiers. So there are 5 total soldiers on board, 2 of which are tapped and have attacked Jace, 1 of which died to the Aetherling.
Gonna be able to kill the Jace before it actually kills Harry, but the 2 activations may be enough. 25 cards, so 15 cards. Harry drew a card, so he's currently at 14 cards. Ooh.
So Jonathan plays an Elspeth of his own. Now, a few months ago, this would have been an answer to the opposing Elspeth, but right now it's just an Elspeth for Jonathon, based on the new rule.
Being able to +1 and make 3 soldiers is actually going to protect the memory adept.
Yeah, this is actually really huge. It's sort of an answer to the Elspeth in a way.
Yeah, match the tokens 1 for 1 here,
This
so
is
that the 5 tokens can only get 1 through.
This has been set up very well by Jonathon in a way that the game was all about Aetherling. Harry has found a way to deal with the Aetherling, and the memory adept is coming behind and saying, all right, now you need to deal with this entirely other axis of attack.
And those are both singletons in Jonathon's deck, the 1 Aetherling, the 1 Jace memory adept, but when you get into a control mirror like this, 1 is enough. You're going to draw it at some point.
So Harry can deal with Aetherling here with Elspeth, right? Like, so he's scooping him up. He sees the writing on the wall. He can sacrifice Elspeth to deal with Aetherling, but Aetherling's not the problem anymore.
Yeah.
After that needle, Aetherling is...
So yeah, he could have sacrificed his Elspeth to get rid of the Aetherling and then been able to attack with the 5 soldiers to kill the Jace, but he only had 3 cards left in his library, realized he did not have the resources to win in 3 turns.
Yeah, that was a tight one. And that was just game 2 here in the finals of the Standard Open of the StarCityGames.com Open Series, featuring the Invitational live from Indianapolis. I'm Joey Pasco in the booth with Ricky Hayashi, and Harry Corvese and Jonathon Cheng are a game apiece here in the finals. 65 minutes into the round, and wow.
I missed the pun. You heard the jeers in the background, perhaps. I don't know if you could at home, but those jeers were for the classic now StarCityGames.com food and drink pun.
Yeah,
I missed it. If you heard it in the background, perhaps you could tweet #SCGINDY and let us know what it was, because I'm really curious.
Yeah, I think yesterday it was, please keep your food and drinks off the table. We don't want your cards being spoiled by underworld concoctions. That was pretty bad.
That's not.
Oh, this one was scrying over spilled milk.
Yeah, oh.
But it's legacy, so nobody, I guess, I don't know.
Who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
Love it. That is organized play member Aaron Stickney. Oh my goodness.
You see Ruben Bressler there in the background next to Jonathon Cheng, and he's laughing pretty hard. I don't know if he's laughing at the scrying over spilled milk or if he's laughing at something else, but he's certainly having a good time there, writing up the written coverage of our finals.
Now in the background, let's just stop talking for a moment. Hopefully they can hear this.
He is your Central Region RC, a level 3 judge, and the man in charge today. He is the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour, the reflection of perfection, the #1 selection, the show.
All right,
I don't know.
Apparently it's not coming across over the microphone very well, but that is our photographer, invitational photographer, Rob Johnson. He's also a level 2 judge from Barrie, Ontario, I believe, in Canada. We bring him out here because he is one of the best photographers in the industry in Magic the Gathering. But he is also he is also, like myself, a fan of WWE wrestling, and he just gave the Legacy Open head judge, level 3 Dan Stevens, a fantastic, as Dan said, a fantastic introduction there, wrestling promo style.
Yeah, sounding like Mean Gene Okerlund or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
Wonderful players here.
it was apparently a Degeneration X Road Dogg Jesse James.
This is actually something I started at the Invitational in Atlanta earlier this year when I was the Legacy Open head judge. I asked around, I said, hey guys, I want to do this wrestling promo intro. Who wants to introduce me? And no one wanted to do it. All of the guys in OP, Jared Silva, Jason Reedy, they're like,
Oh, come on.
And Rob Johnson came through, the photographer. He's a big wrestling fan, has a fantastic booming voice. Introduced me, we had a lot of fun, and then Bruce Mills repeated it at the Somerset Invitational, so now I guess this has also become a tradition.
Yeah, I like
the Legacy Open head judge at the Invitational, introduced in wrestling promo style. So if you want to see see/hear that in person, because apparently, unfortunately, you could not hear it very well over our microphones. You should come to Las Vegas, Nevada for the next Invitational. That's going to be December 13th and 15th through 15th. Even if you are not qualified for the Invitational, there's a Standard Open Saturday, there's a Legacy Open Sunday, a Sealed Classic Sunday, the Ascension Immortal Tournament on Sunday. A lot of stuff to do at the Invitational weekends, even if you're not qualified. And if you show up in person, you can hear Rob Johnson give his wrestling promo introduction. The head judge of that Legacy Open is going to be level 3 judge Jeremy Bahunin from Salt Lake City, Utah, actually Ogden, Utah, a suburb. And I don't know if he knows what he's got coming for him, Jeremy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, I don't know if this has ever happened at a Magic tournament. Has anybody ever, like, distracted judges while the other guy pulls a chair out from under the table and smacks his opponent over the head with it? Has that ever happened at a Magic tournament that you know of?
No comment.
Okay.
I'm not allowed to talk about that incident.
Nobody brings a pillowcase full of thumbtacks to dump all over the table?
Look, I'm going to let you in on a secret. Just you, Joe. I'm letting you in on a secret. That is actually part of the level 3 interview panel.
Oh, okay.
Just between you and me. Don't tell anyone else.
You muted your mic, right? Oh. All right. Looks like Harry Corvese and Jonathon Cheng are just about to get underway. Wait, is Jonathon Cheng going for a chair? No, he just dropped a card. Okay.
Well, Tyler Lytle at Tyler_Lytle on Twitter saying they should let this Rob guy do all of the introductions. I don't know if he was able to hear it over the microphone or if he is here in person, tweeting #SCGINDY. Maybe he is here in person, and he's letting us know that that was a fantastic introduction from Rob Johnson.
Yes, it was. Yeah, I would like to have Rob do that. He could, maybe just. I guess you just have to be the official photographer of the entire Open Series all the time.
Every weekend?
Yeah, why not?
That is a lot.
That's a lot of
opens.
photos and a lot of opens. Yeah. But yeah, looks like our players are drawing their opening 7.
We were a little bit distracted. The players were a little bit distracted. Having a good time here, but let's get back to the action. This is game number 3, Joey.
It certainly is.
All
game
tied up
of the finals here in Indianapolis for the Standard Open. The StarCityGames.com Open Series featuring the Invitational this weekend going on since Friday. We are at the start of day 3 here. We've got this Standard Open Finals right now. We've got the Invitational Top 8 coming up starting at 11 a.m., assuming this game ends before 11 a.m. But after that, we will be covering the Legacy Open, of course, later on today.
I'm going to make one last call.
Let's battle. So if you're just joining us, this Esper Control Mirror, Harry Corvese took game 1 on the back of Aetherling. Jonathon Cheng in game 2 landed an Aetherling, and it looked like he was taking over. Harry found a Piling Needle to answer the Aetherling, and then after that, Jonathon with his Singleton Jace Memory Adept milling Harry out.
Yeah,
so
basically he made the game about Aetherling. He made Harry
and then
fight
switched
the Aetherling,
gears.
and then he switched gears at the last moment.
He didn't just switch gears, he switched vehicles.
Yeah.
He was driving a car.
And then he jumped into a boat or something.
Yeah, it was like a James Bond car that turned into a boat or an airplane all of a sudden.
So we are underway. Both players appear to have kept their openers, and we're just in land go mode as we have been for the first few turns of both of our games thus
More like
far.
Scrygo.
Yeah, Scrygo. That sounds about.
Is that a Pokemon? Scrygo?
I don't know.
There's been a thing going on Facebook. Pokemon or programming code, I think it is. Like, there's a name of something, and you have to decide if it's a Pokemon name or some kind of programming language.
I was going to make some sort of reference to, like, peeking at the top card of your library. I'm going to take a Pikachu.
Nice.
I'm going to take a Pikachu. That's what Skryland's doing.
All right, for the Legacy Open today, when Jace, the Mind Sculptor, Fate Seals, I'm going to say Pikachu.
Pikachu. There you go.
There's also another one comparison, like you are given a name and you have to decide if that is the name of a metal band or IKEA furniture. I don't know if you've seen that one, but
I haven't seen that one, but I used to work for IKEA, so I get
so
the
you
joke.
know them all.
So Thoughtseize is the first spell of the game from Jonathon Cheng, and Negate is the response from Harry Corvese. Now we saw Jonathon Cheng run out of counterspells in game
Yeah, there you
2,
go.
fighting over a Thoughtseize.
Ooh.
And Gainsay from Jonathon meets Gainsay from Harry, and Thoughtseize does not resolve. Jonathon now tapped out. Harry going to be able to resolve a Supreme Verdict here. Oh, I doubt that's the play. He's going to resolve a Thoughtseize, though. So Sphinx's Revelation, Elspeth, Pithing Needle, Detention Sphere, and a Hallowed Fountain. So you preemptively take the Needle. Do you take the? You'd probably take the Revelation here. Yeah, there it is. Almost forgot about the Revelation there. I was looking at the other three. Revelation was kind of hiding there. But yeah, Revelation is the call from Harry.
That would be just one of the most amazing.
Jonathon top deck says Sphinx's Revelation just after losing his first one to a Thoughtseize.
Yeah, whatever. He's been doing that all
This
game.
guy with
top
the
decks.
sick rips.
Oh, and there you go again. Untapped Shockland. Always an indication of Revelation. Now Harry has to be like, really?
Yeah. Jonathan's like, Harry did this to me last game, play the untapped Shockland. I'm going to do it to him, but nothing from Harry, nothing from Jonathon. We're just back to land go, but
Yeah.
significantly, very significantly, Harry has missed his land drops for the last couple of turns. Jonathon has 6 lands to Harry's 4. Harry on the play. So there he finally finds a temple, and I'm guessing that top card was a land. He looked and kept immediately. Sphinx's
So
Revelation
now,
from
now
Jonathon.
he fires it off. Interesting that he didn't do it the turn where he played the Hallowed Fountain untapped. Maybe he just wanted the extra card and the extra life. Or maybe he left the mana open. If Harry had gone to play something, maybe Jonathon would have done it last turn.
This may be the bait for the Elspeth here, potentially. He's going to cast the Revelation. It's going to get dissolved. Harry scries. Of course, he already kept the top card. He's going to keep it again. Jonathon now free to resolve something that Harry is essentially tapped out. He can. I think he's actually got it might be the Detention Sphere I saw, but it looks kind of like another Revelation. I think it's the Detention Sphere. It is.
Yeah, we saw that he had a sphere earlier. I'm still going back to that turn where the Thoughtseize are scattered, and he said, now Harry's free to resolve a Supreme Verdict. I was going to say that would be the most amazing on-screen juke ever. Just empty board, Supreme Verdict, go.
Yeah.
And everyone would just be like, huh?
Now the Supreme Verdict would be a lot more
now it'd be
attractive.
good. Or
Elspeth comes down for Jonathon, makes 3 guys. Harry says, all right, Jonathon, you're tapped out. You got an Elspeth? That looks like a good plan. I'm going to do the same thing. Elspeth, 3 tokens, and we've got an even board. Jonathon being up 1 land on Harry at this point.
It's my dueling Elspeths.
Oh, is that the banjo that Elspeth
Yeah.
plays when she's not in Magic the Gathering art?
What if there's a band, like an actual musical group band of planeswalkers?
Or maybe the Planeswalkers each have their thing, and it's like Elspeth's banjo, like Biden to Thassa. It's banjo of Elspeth.
She's got a pretty nice spear. Maybe she's, in the storyline, she's just going to kill Heliod and take his spear?
He's going to kill him with his own spear? I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so Jonathon Cheng's turn here with an Elspeth on 5, facing down another Elspeth on 5 on the other side of the
The
board.
interesting thing is that we know that Jonathon, and Harry knows, he saw it with the Thoughtseize, has the Pithing Needle. What if Jonathon just decides, tick up my Elspeth and let you tick up yours? He gets to 7 first, and then just ultimates, and then needles on Elspeth.
That
to
could
stop
be a
Harry
play.
from having his emblem, so that his soldiers are all bigger.
That
Maybe
could certainly be a
Maybe
play.
Harry should be trading soldiers here for that eventuality. I guess. Well, now Harry has a needle too, so if Jonathon goes up to 7, Harry can needle Elspeth. Maybe he's going to need to needle the Jace Architect of Thought here, though, that Jonathon has played.
Yeah, Jace the follow-up to Elspeth after swinging in with 3 tokens.
3 cards revealed for the -2. Hero's Downfall, Plains, and a Watery Grave. So Downfaller lands. Almost certainly going to take that Downfall here, although Jonathon has, again, looks like mismanaged his lands and tapped out of double black. So he cannot Hero's Downfall the Elspeth now, and looks at his hand, and he has a Detention Sphere he could have cast, but says go instead.
Yeah, we've seen Jonathon mismanage his mana earlier when he definitely intended to cast a Hero's Downfall.
Yeah. So here, casting Jace, Architect of Thought, tapping too many black-producing lands. Not thinking perhaps about what his follow-up play would need to be or what he may possibly draw.
Thinking about doing something with those soldiers, but looks like he's changed his mind, at least temporarily.
This is a tough position. Being behind in the Elspeth loyalty battle. They are fighting over Elspeth's loyalty here, Harry, Corvese, and Jonathon Cheng.
Yeah, essentially it's an Elspeth battle at this point. Jonathon's got the edge. He's got an extra Jace. He's got an extra land, but that could mean nothing. So he could, yeah.
Both players have Needle.
Right. So, but Needle affects both players. Now we know. I mean, Needle on Elspeth is going to affect both players. As you mentioned, I did like the idea of potentially ticking up Elspeth and then needling. But the problem with that is once Elspeth is on the verge of ultimating, Harry will just play his Needle first.
So Harry attacks Elspeth with his 3 soldiers, baiting out this block or baiting out the no block. Either way, he's got a Supreme Verdict in hand, so that's going to be his plan. Either way is Supreme Verdict, then reset, and at least be ahead on the soldier count. Certainly, he doesn't want to just take 6 back from those tokens.
Yeah, Harry must have a plan for that.
Welcome to round 1. You have
now Jonathon has to think about whether he wants to block these soldiers or not. Oh, he says Elspeth, he lets Elspeth take it. So now Harry is definitely...
Yeah, Harry now has the edge on the Elspeth, but again, you mentioned both players having Needle.
Yeah, at any point, at will, can shut down whichever Planeswalkers they want. Jonathon with the Planeswalker advantage, Jace and Elspeth, lead singer and lead guitar.
All right.
Xenagos is definitely the drummer.
Yeah, that seems about right. All right, so Elspeth's going to tick up for Harry. He's going to make 3.
Okay, just gonna...
Oh. Well, wait a second.
See, yeah, I think he wants to Supreme Verdict first and then have soldier advantage, because otherwise he's just going to get attacked by 6 soldiers, only be able to block with 3, and he's going to then fall behind in the Elspeth loyalty.
Yeah, it looks like Harry's even got an additional Elspeth in hand. He's got Needle, he's got Verdict, he's got what I think is Elspeth, a Sphinx's Revelation, and a mystery card in the back there.
Well, that changes the
gold card.
consideration, is if he has another Elspeth, maybe he just ticks up here, sees if Jonathon attacks his Elspeth. No, he's going to +1 and then Needle.
Wow, okay, so the
and
play,
Blood Baron.
Yeah. So the
That's
play is, I guess, Needle Elspeth is my guess, after his Elspeth's on 6 and Jonathon's on 3. We're going to see a dissolve for the Blood Baron. Needle's on Jace, okay. So it's still an Elspeth battle. Jace is effectively neutered for the moment, and Blood Baron is successfully dissolved as Jonathon scries and then untaps for his turn. We are making a mess of a board. I wouldn't give her a Supreme Verdict.
Neutered or spade? You know, that's funny. I've never actually bothered to learn which is for which gender, neutered and spade.
I think neutered is male, spade is for female.
Well, the fact that I have not bothered to learn means I don't actually care.
Well,
because I could just learn it.
Fine, Ricky Hayashi.
Sorry, cats and dogs. I do it all the time at home. We now have 2 cats, a male and a female, and I keep calling them he and she interchangeably, and it doesn't...
They don't seem to care?
No, they don't care.
Doesn't bother
they don't know the English language, as it turns out. They just know kind of my expressiveness.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm like, come here, boy, and it's like the female one. They don't care. They just
they
hear my expression, like, oh, okay. And my cats actually do respond. like dogs, and when I call for them, they come. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah, they're very affectionate.
So,
Hi Setna, hi Figaro.
are they watching?
It might be a little early on the West Coast, yeah.
That's fair. So a Hero's Downfall in hand from Jonathon Cheng. He's also got a Detention Sphere, a Pithing Needle, and one other card.
I think I should say hi to Tasha too, my fiance, while I'm saying hi to the people at home.
Hi, Tasha. I heard she had an incident with what was it, a hot beverage in a cold glass?
Yeah, I don't know.
I saw she posted that on Facebook. While Jonathon here is tanking, we can't quite get a great look, but he's got a Hero's Downfall. He's got a Gainsay, I believe, is that mystery card. So he's got a Hero's Downfall. He's got a Detention Sphere. He's got what I think is a Gainsay, and he's got a Pithing Needle. There is one needle on the table already on Jace, Architect of Thought. Harry's got an Elspeth on 6. No danger of ultimating yet, but that not too far off.
Jonathon committing 6 soldiers to combat. Looks like Harry. It looks like A, they were attacking Harry, and B, Harry just took it.
Took it all, yeah.
And now Jonathon +3 soldiers, +1 loyalty for Elspeth. Hero's Downfall on your Elspeth. That
And
could
yeah.
be the turning point of this game.
Harry tapped out,
Harry,
unable to deal with it, and yeah, Pithing Needle. Yeah, he tries to activate Jace, but Pithing Needle is there. Jace can't do anything. Now, the fact that Harry took that and did not block with any of his soldiers makes me think he has no intention of casting that Supreme Verdict, because otherwise, why not just trade off your tokens?
right. Well, I think he wants his 6 soldiers to be able to strike at Elspeth again. Jonathon going for Harry's life total. Harry has been going for the Planeswalker. And that obviously could be because Jonathon had the Hero's Downfall.
Yeah.
But now Harry with 6 soldiers to 3 untapped on Jonathon's side. Elspeth at 4 loyalty can attack Elspeth down to 1 loyalty if 3 soldiers trade.
Yeah, so Harry's hand is Elspeth, Sphinx's Revelation, and Supreme Verdict. So he can kill Jace if he wants. Not really a problem at the moment with Pithing Needle there. He can attack into Elspeth and knock her to 1.
1 single point of damage here. Goes for Elspeth. Needs 1 more point of damage. My kingdom for a battle growth, says Harry. My goodness. Like, I mean, it's 1 point of damage. And how important is this right here? The difference between being able to kill Elspeth or not changes the whole dynamic of the game and what Harry needs to do.
So yeah, Jonathon
Trade.
going to just trade away 3 tokens. Elspeth goes to 1. I think that's fine with Jonathon. He's still got an Elspeth on the table. And now a Supreme Verdict from Harry will clean things up.
Does he have enough mana for Elspeth? No, Harry has actually been pretty light on his lands.
Yeah, he's missed a few land drops. He's not in awful shape, but he has missed a few land drops. So Jonathon going to untap and immediately make some tokens with Elspeth. She goes up to 2 counters. There are 3 soldiers and a Jace, Architect of Thought, on Jonathon's side of the board. The problem with the Jace, or the problem for Jonathon, is that Pithing Needle is naming Jace, Architect of Thought. Jonathon's going to cycle an Azorius Charm. I don't know that I've seen too many Azorius Charms out of Harry's deck. I wonder if he sided some number of them out.
Yeah, that's one of the cards that I would have sided out. Although there are situations, I think in the Control Mirror, most of the time you just cycle it.
Yeah, but it is
Occasionally
an answer for Aetherling. That's the thing. An answer. It's a temporary answer for Aetherling.
I think a lot of times the better answer for Aetherling is to lifelink if you get a bunch of soldiers. But yeah, it's not a very good card here. I think Harry would have sided him out. I think both of them should have sided it out.
So Jonathon's going to follow up his Azorius Charm with a Blood Baron of Vizkopa, which does resolve. So Jonathon with the entire board of permanents here, of non-land permanents anyway.
But Harry's got an opening to resolve his own Elspeth.
Yeah, he can Sphinx's Revelation for 4 here, and he does separate his lands out, looking like he's going to go for a Revelation.
Right,
he has
the
a
3
Dissolve.
and the X.
Exactly. He does have a Dissolve in hand that he drew off the top this turn.
Oh, dissolve not so good when you are behind on the board and a little constrained on your mana.
Yeah.
At least for these control decks.
Yeah, you wanted to dissolve when those were on the stack, not when they were on the table. And here he is going to cast the Sphinx's Revelation main phase.
Yeah,
for 4 cards.
He needs to draw more lands here to. Oh,
Found a Merciless Eviction in addition to 3 other cards. He's going to play a Hallowed Fountain and pass back. So he's at 9 life. He's going to take 7 here from Jonathon's attackers. Immediately, Jonathon swings in with everybody. Going to knock Harry to 2. Does Jonathon have the shock? I think we'd be pretty shocked if he had the shock. He's got a shock land. No, actually, that's a scry land. But it would be pretty funny.
going there. I was like, wait a minute, shock. No, okay.
So Elspeth ticks up, bringing along 3 more soldiers. And Harry at 2 in rough shape here.
So he's got Supreme Verdict, Merciless Eviction. Needs to sequence these correctly. How much mana does he have? Not enough for both. So looks like a Supreme Verdict first, especially clearing out the Blood Baron of Viscopa, very important.
Right, the scary stuff is the creatures. That's what's killing him. The Jace is neutered, and Elspeth, by herself can be dealt with later. She's not going to suddenly do him 2 damage next turn. She's not Chandra, which of course doesn't do 2 exactly, but
Such a small thing there, but the inability to cast Supreme Verdict and then a follow-up Elspeth. Very important at this point in the match.
So Harry passes back to Jonathon, who has Elspeth tick up to 4 counters and bring along 3 soldiers, repopulating the board with creatures.
Yeah. Or going Supreme Verdict, Merciless Eviction on Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
And then on the next turn, casting Elspeth Harry.
Right. It's just
That would've
missing
been
those land drops has been a big deal for
Yes,
Harry.
missing land drops on turn, 6, 7, 8 is costing him at turn 15 when he needs 10 mana.
Yeah. So it looks like he found a Sphinx's Revelation on top, and it looks like that's what he's going for here. He's going to just draw 3. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He's just tapping 6 and casting Elspeth.
So now giving up on the possibility of merciless eviction on Planeswalkers. Counter War, both have Dissolve.
Dissolve meets Dissolve, and it appears that Elspeth will resolve. Elspeth's going to bring 3 soldiers. They are going to be able to protect Harry's life total.
Yeah, now we're back in this situation, the soldier fights.
Jonathon, though, up a full player's life total over Harry.
Loyalty fights.
Point. Jonathon at 22 to Harry's 2 life.
And more answers in his hand. But the answers are symmetrical answers. A needle,
right.
A detention sphere.
He can activate Elspeth, making 3 more guys. Well, actually, what he can do here is, okay, attack. All right, trade my soldiers off. Activate Elspeth, make 3. Needle Elspeth.
Yeah. Needle or D-sphere.
Right, well, Needle or D-sphere will work too.
Needle's
I think
probably
Needle's
better.
safer because if he gets rid of the D-sphere, I guess either one he gets rid of.
Well, I think Needle's safer in case Harry draws another Elspeth after that.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's what he's going for here. He's going for it. Harry Corvese only at 2 life. All Jonathon needs here is these 3 soldiers. Is that the line he's going to choose? He's
got to activate Elspeth here.
Yeah,
okay,
it's a very unintuitive line, to needle a Planeswalker that you control, but
it's the Planeswalker you don't control as well. So, there's one on the other side of the table. I think, didn't Harry, I don't know if it was a previous game or just earlier in this game, that Harry's already used up one of his Elspeths, so that is, I believe, the second Elspeth. He's only got 2.
He's only got 2 total, okay.
So he wouldn't be in danger of, if it were D-sphere, he wouldn't be in danger of drawing another copy of Elspeth, if that's the case.
An important thing to remember, if you have a, like a photographic memory or can just remember key cards in your opponent's deck list when you look at them, knowing that he only has 2 Elspeths.
Yeah, and D-sphere on the Elspeth also saves the needle for a potential Aetherling.
Yeah.
So
But an
Here we go.
Aetherling not an answer here because 3 1/1 soldier tokens. Harry needs to have 2 blockers or removal spell. He does have Merciless Eviction. Will he be forced to use Merciless Eviction, such a powerful card, on 3 soldier tokens?
It's either that or lose right here.
Yeah, I choose lose.
Yeah.
Just lose
I
in
couldn't
class.
cast Merciless Eviction for 3 soldiers.
That's
what are
ridiculous.
you talking about? Yeah, not doing that. Extend the hand.
Lose classy. No, he wants to win.
He also has the Sphinx's Revelation in hand as well, and I think a Jace, which of course is needled right now by Harry's own needle.
that.
So there are some options for Harry, but he has to resolve. Whatever it is he casts has to resolve, and Jonathan's got quite a few cards in hand. I don't know if he's got 7, but he's probably got 6 or 5.
I think I like the Revelation on this turn better. Maybe, you know, pass and do it in upkeep again. Yeah, here we go. Because he has to have a counterspell here. Jonathan, fingers hand. No,
Yeah.
nothing.
So that's
Because what this does is, how much life is this? 4, 7? Yeah, so 6. This is 3 turns with the soldiers. This may, if Jonathan draws like a Blood Baron, it may force Jonathan to commit a Blood Baron to the board into the Merciless Eviction that Harry eventually has to cast. Or he may just draw a different answer, like the Detention Sphere you see, that he would rather cast over the Merciless Eviction and save the eviction for a future Planeswalker, or this Planeswalker, well, that goes away.
So Jonathan actually takes the opportunity to resolve a Detention Sphere on Harry's Pithing Needle, which is naming Jace. So Jonathan's Jace freed up to -2 and finds
Gainsay.
Jonathan a Gainsay.
So that restricts Harry's options because Detention Sphere is both a white and a blue card. Gainsay can counter it.
Merciless Eviction, though, is not blue, so
Black
if
and
he
white.
does have that option here, if he wants to deal with those tokens that way and doesn't have a Supreme Verdict to make sure it resolves. So we'll see what he goes with. He's going to tap 4 here. It looks like he's going to have a Jace Architect of Thought. Does that meet a Gainsay? Is that worth
Baiting out
that
the
Gainsay?
Gainsay. And why not? You almost have to, right? If you want to win with these soldiers.
And there you go, Gainsay, says Jonathan. Yeah, because Jace would have just ticked up, and that would have indefinitely protected Harry
Yeah.
from that
And
from
now
those soldiers.
Now safe is the coast clear for the Detention Sphere.
Oh, he's just going to play another Jace. I didn't realize he had a
Chase,
second
yeah.
one.
Fantastic.
So now that one resolves. Jace ticks up, and now Harry again protected from those soldiers.
Soldiers neutralized, ticking up Jace.
Thoughtseize, says Jonathan Cheng. That's going to be big.
Yeah.
So we've got that 2 Detention Spheres, Merciless Eviction, and it looks like all 4 lands. So he can take the Merciless Eviction or Detention Spheres,
There we go.
obviously.
Zooming in, Godless Shrine, Plains, Island, and Hallowed Fountain.
Harry not missing those land drops now.
No, I mean, he's resolved, what, 3 Revelations?
Yeah. So Thoughtseize, what do you take with the Thoughtseize? Now, I think I take the Merciless Eviction. It is a more powerful card. It's a sweeper, and it can't be gainsayed.
Yeah. Really depends a lot on what's in Jonathan's hand.
It definitely does. He's going to take
One of
the
the
Detention
spheres.
Sphere.
Yeah, because you see, okay, because of the needle in Jonathan's hand, I mean, Harry is still left with 1 Detention Sphere for the needle, but taking away potentially future answers to another needle, perhaps.
Yeah, and that might be exactly what the plan is. So Needle on Jace, Architect of Thought, will keep Harry from protecting his life total using Jace's +1 unless he can deal with that needle. Harry counting up his lands.
So he can go for Detention Sphere on the needle, +1 Jace, and then kind of be in the same position as last turn.
Funny thing,
That's what
both
we
players
see.
have had Pithing Needle on Jace, Architect of Thought in this game.
Well, I was just about to say that an important consideration down the line is the possibility of Merciless Eviction on enchantments. right?
Yes, absolutely.
There
So
are 3 detention spheres.
So Harry actually goes with -2 on the Jace after resolving detention sphere on that needle,
Huh.
and
So needle or land syncopate. Takes the needle. Syncopate, less and less useful, so good to be able to put that on the bottom of his library.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is he
Now-
going for Aetherling? Aetherling.
Wow, so
From Harry Corvese, Aetherling looks to have resolved.
yeah, Aetherling able to protect Jace by blocking a soldier token. And here, Harry Corvese,
Jonathon Cheng going to tap out entirely for a Sphinx's Revelation for 7, it appears. Yeah, it's for 7. So that'll put him out of range of a very quick Aetherling kill. As you mentioned, Aetherling being able to protect the Jace matters there. So Jonathon decides not to attack at all with those 3 soldiers.
giving Harry a window to resolve anything he wants, but I don't know if there's anything he wants to resolve.
Thoughtseize is pretty good, especially after a Sphinx's Revelation. I'm going to take whatever the best card you got.
Yep.
And it looks like Jonathon got 5 lands, a Gainsay, and a Divination. So I think you just take the Gainsay here. And yeah, that's one of those times when you Revelation for like a ton, and you're like, yeah, Revelation. You're like, land. Oh, no. I mean, lands are great and all, but that's not what Jonathon was looking for. The Gainsay is good. I mean, he's probably happy about the Gainsay.
I don't know that feeling.
No.
Lightning strike you, bro.
So, he takes the Divination. Interesting. So Harry cutting off Jonathon's route to drawing more cards.
Well,
And now can
Harry
play around Gainsay.
doesn't have any blue spells in his hand currently? Well, there's a blue spell. There's 2 blue spells.
Revelation or Temple Jace. This is off of the Jace Architect of Thought, -2 yet
Revelation.
again. He's going to take the Revelation here, and he could possibly just tap out just like Jonathon did on Jonathon's upkeep. Although there is that Gainsay, so never mind. He's not going to do it during Jonathon's upkeep. He
And there, that was a subtle sequencing error. Harry should have activated his Jace first, maybe, see what he gets. I guess he wanted to determine whether he wanted to plus Jace or minus
Yeah.
Jace, but now, having known about the Gainsay and leaving it in his hand off the Thoughtseize, he's put himself in a tough spot with Sphinx's Revelation.
Well, I'm pretty sure I think Gainsay was what I would have taken there, but Harry, again,
But Harry had no blue cards in his hand at the time.
Sure, but your deck is a base blue deck, so you're probably going to draw into some blue cards that you want to resolve. I mean, still, Harry, again, he can play around the Gainsay, and if he just wants to cut Jonathon off of extra cards, basically there's one relevant card in Jonathon's hand right now, and it is Gainsay. So he is free to resolve whatever he'd like, because Jonathon is tapped out.
So Willy Wonka on Twitter at BigLA62 said, did he not discard after he Sphinx's revved on his turn, or did he do it upkeep? I believe we're talking about Harry Corvese's most recent Sphinx's Revelation before the one he might be casting now. He did do that on Jonathon Cheng's upkeep to make sure that he did not have to discard. He knew that the coast was clear, I believe, from a Thoughtseize.
Aetherling's going to come across for some damage, knocking Jonathon to 27 from 31, so just 4 from the Aetherling. And it looks like Harry's got a backup. Now, he's going to go ahead and cast Revelation to refill his hand and leave up several lands so that he's able to fight a counter war over whatever Jonathon may happen to draw.
Yeah, Jonathon, we saw his hand is currently Gainsay and lands, but he's top-decked pretty well in this match. And Harry has drawn so many cards off of Sphinx's Revelations that, once again, that Jace Memory Adept, the Singleton and Jonathon's deck, lurking.
Jonathon free to kill that Jace here because Harry ticked it down and didn't leave the Aetherling back. Of course, Aetherling could only block 1 anyway, but Jonathon's free to attack that Jace and kill it. So he just attacks Jace with one of the guys and gets in for an additional 2 against Harry's life total. So Harry now at 7. He's going to cast, or Jonathon's going to play Temple of Deceit and pass back. Harry untaps his Aetherling, untaps his roughly 12 lands. And Thoughtseize from Harry. All right, what did you draw? land. So I'm going to take your gainsay and leave you with 5 lands in hand.
But leaving Harry only at 5 life.
Yes, those thought seizes are actually having an effect.
And yeah, this is, I don't know if we saw it off of a previous Jace activation or revelation, but that's why I thought he left the Jace vulnerable, because he's got another one.
So Jace, Architect of Thought, ticks up. Aetherling comes in for the full 8 there, knocking Jonathon to 19.
So this game right now, from Harry's point of view, is all about Aetherling trying to finish the game quickly. On Jonathan's side, I think he needs to find a Jace Memory Adept now.
Jace Memory Adept would be very good. Harry holding a needle that he can use to name Aetherling in case Jonathon finds one of his own. Although, of course, that would affect Harry. And we've seen that quite a bit this game. Each player needling the same cards that they are playing. And Detention Sphere on Elspeth, taking out both Elspeths. And I wouldn't be shocked to see Needle on Aetherling if both players control it. Jonathon found an Azorius Charm.
Okay. Aetherling untaps with all this land. As far as the eye could see, he wanted to breed pine trees.
Aetherling is unblockable. Swing in. Might just be for 4 here. Looks like it is just for 4. Going to knock Jonathon to 15. Harry has 5. Jace ticks up to 6.
Why just for 4? Deal some more damage. Look at all these lands. Do you really need all these lands? Are you bluffing the Sphinx's Revelation? Or do you just have a Sphinx's Revelation in your hand? Jeez.
I don't see a Revelation in Harry's hand. I see a Supreme... Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, he does have Revelation. He's got Revelation, Verdict.
Jeez.
He was covering the Sphinx with his thumb.
That's all 4 Sphinx's Revelations from Harry Corvese.
And that really makes Jace Memory Adept out of Jonathan's deck pretty good. Jonathan's going to see, how many Revelations have you resolved now?
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Uh-oh. That means
What
there's another Revelation over there, and he's got a billion mana untapped.
I think he's looking at the counter spells, actually.
Yeah, he probably is looking at some other things in there as well. Yeah, I'm trying to see Harry's hand. It looks like he's got Revelation, Verdict, Needle, and a couple more cards.
Is this the Jace? No, different Jace.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jace, Architect of
I
Thought.
got excited.
He's got that Merciless Eviction, of course. Harry does. And
This is actually an interesting problem for Jonathan. If this Architect of Thought resolves, then he's... Oh no, the new Planeswalker you get to choose. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not shut out from Jace. Good. Because that would be weird.
that would be weird.
And
Alright.
it would also be weird that there would be 3 different Jaces on the field for a very brief moment in time. The time paradoxes.
All right, so Revelation for whatever Harry is determining right here. He counted his library. There are 16 cards left, so he doesn't want to draw 17 off this Revelation.
Sure he does.
Well, yeah. Wants to is one thing. He can't draw 17 off this Revelation. I mean, mana
But yeah,
exclusions
he
aside.
can cast it for X equals 17. Oh, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So he goes for 6. He's going
Down
to try to
10
find another
cards.
counterspell to deal with that opposing Jace. He finds a negate. It looks like he may have also found a gainsay, but that may have just been an island. We got a peek. He says okay. So Jace, Architect of Thought, resolves, finding Jonathon 2 lands and an Elspeth. Jonathan's, of course,
Obviously,
going
Elspeth
to take
or
the
no.
Elspeth. Yeah. Harry didn't even split them. He probably just said Elspeth or no. Jonathon takes the Elspeth. Now with enough lands untapped over there for Jonathon to cast the Elspeth, does he want to attempt it here?
Jam.
After resolving the Jace, Architect of Thought, you have to feel like fairly safe.
Here, I don't know if he feels safe. Here's
No.
the thing. Harry, again, like we saw this in game 1, showing the patience of holding the counter spells in his hand. At that point, it was only dissolves, really, for the things that matter.
Mhm.
What matters at this point? Aetherling matters. And you see him, he's put the Temple of Deceit on Aetherling, making sure never to tap that one. So Harry says Jace, Architect of Thought, doesn't matter. You can look for cards. If you find something that matters, I'll counter that.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. It just looked like Harry was maybe going to fight over the Jace by casting
Yeah.
Revelation for a few, but yeah, no, I agree. He's
I think
more
part of it
likely
was checking out his options,
absolutely.
right? Maybe if he had only drawn one counter spell, he counters the Jace because he doesn't want him to be able to dig for multiple threats that he can't counter.
Yeah.
But he drew a Gainsay and a Negate.
Did you see a Gainsay? I thought it looked
Oh,
like Gainsay, but I just saw a sliver.
I didn't.
Okay. Jace Memory Adept. That guy
Yeah.
matters.
Gonna fight over this. Harry only has 10 cards left in his library after that Sphinx's Revelation.
All
But
right.
now he's thinking, which counterspell do I use?
And he's got a Hero's Downfall as well. So keep that in mind. So he can negate, and it resolves.
Right.
So even if he negates and Jonathon is able to force it through, he does have... Yeah,
But
that Hero's Downfall's not going to do it. He has
The
10, you
0
said?
kills him, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. He has exactly 10. I was thinking
Goes down to
he
9.
had 16 still, but you just said 10. Yeah.
That's I'm calculating off the report we got earlier.
Right, no, you're right. I think he's under 10 cards now. Jace Memory Adept is the one card that matters the most, but it has been negated. Harry has cleared himself of that threat. He's going to tick up the Jace here. Actually, he's thinking about it. Does he really want to draw more cards? He does. He wants to draw more cards.
So
Finds Blood Baron,
3
Dissolve,
come
Godless
off.
Shrine, which means he should have 6 left. He's going to take the
Take
Blood
those
Baron
2.
and the land, put them on the bottom. He's going to take the Dissolve.
So now 8 cards left in his library. Harry, pick up the Dissolve.
Yeah. It didn't soul bond with the Jace there. There we go. All right. I think he may have gone with the 1-card pile either way.
Yeah, that's
You
what I
know
was
I mean?
thinking.
You know what would have been a funny split is 3 and 0, and see if Harry says,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You take 3 and 0, and you're like, well.
Have you ever done that with Factor Fiction, 5-0?
I don't think so, but I think this may have been a situation where Jonathon
So
could have done it.
It didn't happen to me personally, but it has happened. Factor Fiction splitting 5-0, and the player took the 0 because he got the read that his opponent had sudden impact, deal damage equal to the number of cards in your hand.
I
So
mean,
yeah,
if you're giving someone 5-0, there's got to be a good reason for it. So that's a pretty, obvious tell that you might have some reason to want them to take 5 cards.
Second Aetherling. Now I'm getting hungry.
Aetherling makes you hungry?
Well, anytime I say second, I think of second breakfast.
Oh, okay.
now,
You're
or
a hobbit.
second dinner.
You're a hobbit, I see. So Aetherling number 2 from Harry. That is like second breakfast, really. Like, I mean, do you really need more than one?
Now I'm thinking
But
of
why
second
not?
sunrise.
Oh gosh, that is not what's happening here. Now you made me think of eggs, and now we're back to breakfast again.
Okay, Harry Corvese seemingly has this game in his hands. 2 Aetherlings.
He was so far behind earlier. He had missed land drops.
How low was he? He was at 2 at one point?
I think he may have been
3?
at 2.
2, 3?
Uh,
Very
and
low
now
single digits.
Jace, lowest was 2. We're getting that confirmation. Jace, Architect of Thought, ticks down so that Jonathon can find some cards. He finds a Divination. He's going to cast that. Jonathon trying to just find a way to dig out of this. Harry has just come back into this game after dealing with Elspeth and soldiers across the table earlier on when he was missing land drops. It was a tough grind for him, but he's now in full command. Aetherling, says Jonathon Cheng.
Doesn't matter, right? Make your own Aetherlings
Yeah,
unblockable.
Unless you can give it haste. I think
Unless Jonathon has a Needle, perhaps, and Harry's only counterspell is Gainsay. Gotta hold your soldiers back now, just in case, no?
soldiers attack you. Harry goes to 8. Looks like Jonathon is holding a Sphinx's Revelation and a Negate, among other things.
So the revelation can keep him afloat if Harry only tries to connect with one Aetherling.
Okay, Jace is going to tick up. No, he's going to tick down. I'm sorry. Harry
Wait a minute.
Corvese
So Harry
down to, I believe, 2 cards in library.
drew
Does
a
that make
card
sense?
for his turn. And then
Oh,
plus
I'm sorry.
one. I
Yeah.
think he's got
He
6.
should have 6. I'm sorry. I'm counting all 3 as if he lost those, but no, they're 2 went back, so he should have 6. You're right.
And the weird thing is, Jonathon has split it 2-1, always the 1 as the counter spell, which I think is all that
He's
Harry
splitting
wants.
it like it's early. Yeah, and I think he would have been better off splitting 3-0 and making Harry choose between cards or decking himself. Both
That would have
times.
been an interesting decision. It would have made Harry pause, but instead,
Either
I think
way,
that
Harry
was
gets the
absolutely
counterspell.
easy. Yeah, he gets the counterspell and keeps more cards in his library.
And double
Jonathon
Aetherling,
just-
Jonathon says, I can't do anything about it, and Harry Corvese
Wow.
on the back of 2 Aetherlings grinds the mid-game there. High five between the players,
Handshake,
first
high
and second,
five.
with Esper control. Esper meets in the finals, takes down the StarCityGames.com Standard Open here in Indianapolis at the StarCityGames.com Open Series featuring the Invitational. And